John Parker was living a good life, had a $500,000 house in Crown Point.
A mentor, or a good friend, someone that we all respected, was murdered.
Mr. Parker had been shot in the back of the head.
His wife saw a figure dressed in all black run behind the car.
That's my ear. Papa, my heart is stopped.
Didn't believe that it was a random robbery. If he was going to die young, it was going to be because somebody didn't want him around.
There was an altercation with a former employee.
We started documenting 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 plots to have John killed.
They had conspiracy, but they wanted the gun. They wanted the person that did the murder.
Classic hallmark of a psychopath. Everyone was expendable. Dark personalities can be made or born. Clearly, this was premeditated, grooming, manipulating for years.
The only homicides I had the occasion to investigate were the smoking guns. The husband shooting the wife shooting the husband. And those are crimes of passion. Heat of the moment. This homicide was different.
The American dream family, 2 people that came from nothing, became very, very successful, had a perfect business, perfect marriage, a perfect family, and then going down a dishonest, dark road, turned things south.
On a quiet evening in the warehouse district of Maryville, Indiana, emergency dispatchers receive a call that an individual has been shot.
The initial call came from a female identified as Judy Parker, and she told the dispatcher that she was sitting in her car, parked in front of a business, which was J&J Parker Industries. And the door opened. Her husband, John Parker, was there. She heard a pop, pop, and saw John slowly fall to the ground. She said she saw a figure dressed in all black run behind the car. Immediately, I jumped up to head out there because any sort of shots fired call will likely need detective involvement.
We fanned out into the warehouse area.
We checked dumpsters, we checked in the bushes, we checked around all the buildings. We checked the roofs of the buildings, just in case the suspect was hiding somewhere.
It was
no surveillance evidence available to review. Detectives switched their focus back to the crime scene and John Parker.
The Parker vehicle was parked in front of the business. Mr. Parker himself was laying on the ground on the driver's side of the vehicle, and he was deceased. Mr. Parker had been shot in the back of the head near the base, and upon my examination of the scene, we did locate a shell casing very near to the body. It was a .25 caliber. Those are routinely from a semi-automatic type of pistol. A second .25 caliber casing was found some distance from the body.
His wife was there, Judy. Also there was a person inside the business, an employee of the Kirby vacuum cleaner business that John Parker was running. So there wasn't a whole lot of witnesses, but everybody was separated. It was determined that there was a wallet missing from John's pocket. It was thought to be a possible robbery where a homicide had occurred.
But how did a possible robbery turn deadly? Detectives begin looking into John Parker and his business.
I want to introduce you to a gentleman by the name of John Parker.
When I first met John, he was 25 years old. He spoke very confidently, and he was very charismatic.
Thanks, Joe. How you guys doing?
I liked his energy.
Anybody have any questions? Questions. I'll go ahead and ask. Don't be scared.
John grew up in Maryville, Indiana. He was busting tables and got a job with Kirby when he was 19, and he went door to door selling vacuum cleaners. Everyone kind of doubted him and said, you can't make money selling vacuum cleaners, you'll never, and so he wanted to prove everybody wrong. And within just a few months, he started breaking sales records.
John moved to Michigan, where he met Judy, a young single mother of 2, who was also selling Kirby vacuums. The couple married and had 2 more children.
John was a family man, He considered stepchildren to be his children, along with his other 2 biological children.
John and Judy also joined forces at work by starting their own vacuum dealership, aptly named J&J Parker Industries.
What we're looking for is people who want to make $800, $900, $1,000 every week.
He was a young kid's idol. Every young kid wanted to approach their mid-20s, living a lifestyle like John and Judy.
I like the fact that I can give my wife whatever she wants, I can give it to her. It's fun to be able to do that.
Judy was John's right hand. She was always there for him, and he was always there for us, as his employees. Every time that he would start a speech, he would come up to the stage and he would talk in front of 1,000 people, and he says, "I can't do this without my gorgeously stunning, beautiful wife, Judy, over there."
Yeah, he is J&J Parker Associates, and that does stand for Judy and John Parker.
I could never imagine them.
John, a millionaire by the age of 30. Soon after, the Parkers packed up their 4 children and moved their business back to John's hometown in Maryville, Indiana, settling into the affluent neighborhood of Crown Point.
John and Judy were building this great business empire together, making more money than they'd ever dreamed of, driving nice cars.
John Parker was living a good life. He was doing pretty well for himself at 33.
With John now laying dead outside his office, detectives consider if his success may have also been his downfall. They bring his stunned wife Judy to the station to document the moments leading up to his murder.
When I finally did get to speak to Judy Parker, she was calm, and that can be attributed to shock. Her husband had been shot practically in front of her eyes. We asked her to recount, what had happened just prior to the murder. And Judy had told us that she and John went to a local restaurant.
Went down by yourself to this 2 minutes. Okay. You told the kids you were going out to dinner, we'll be back. You know that. And, while they're at dinner, my daughter called me.
Christina Hicks, Judy's daughter, called saying there was some homework that one of the younger daughters had left at the office. John and Judy drove back to J&J Parker Industries to pick up the homework. John went and spoke to the office manager, Ben Love. After their short conversation, Judy had gone out to the car.
When I got in the car, sat down, I looked up and I said, John, coming. He went to the back door, so he opened it, and I stepped back around, and that's when I hear, pop, pop.
What was the first thing you saw?
John going down. My heart just stopped. And then I see somebody going that way.
It was dark out, and she wasn't able to identify the person that was involved. In other robberies, usually there's conversation taking place, things that escalate to where there is a killing or shots fired. In this situation, it happened so quick, it rose suspicion that this may be a little bit more than just a robbery gone bad. The only thing that was missing was a wallet. John had an expensive Rolex watch on. He had other jewelry on. None of that was taken.
He was shot in the head. Like an actual hit or assassination or a deliberate thing. Just doesn't look like a robbery. And we're just trying to figure out who wanted to kill.
He's had people that he's got computations.
We learned that 3 weeks prior to the murder, there was an altercation in the parking lot at J&J Parker Industries with a former employee, that there were heated words exchanged, and that the police had to be called to separate the 2 parties.
John's like, I know I'm going to work before. I guess he had to push John or something. Saying, you're screwing me out of money, blah, blah.
We learned a bit about John, and John was a driven businessman. Sometimes that rubbed people the wrong way.
What ran through our minds was that it could have been a disgruntled employee.
Coming up,
There had been a plot to have John Parker killed.
There was a lot of money missing from the books. John was going to find out about that money, and things were going to go downhill very fast.
The fact they were so ready to get this off of their chest tells me that this is not something that they would have normally done on their own volition.
police in Maryville, Indiana, are investigating the fatal shooting of successful businessman John Parker. Suspicions shift from a possible robbery to a targeted attack, as detectives learned 3 weeks prior he had an altercation with a former employee.
I want this person found.
And it's been weak. I mean, this ain't here. It's not supposed to.
I want it found.
That's
I want
okay.
it found.
concluded Judy's interview, we knew that we had to talk to Ben Love, who was the office manager, as well as one of the last people to see John Parker alive.
The office manager's account of what happened in the moments leading up to John's death aligns with Judy's. He also confirms the bad blood between John and his former employee.
When we ran that lead down, we interviewed the former employee, and we discovered the altercation was an argument over the former employee possibly not returning all of his equipment when he left and demanding that he hadn't been paid correctly. It did end up getting worked out. The equipment was returned. The employee was reimbursed. That was a lead that just led to nowhere.
The next day, after confirming the former employee's alibi, investigators regroup to develop a new strategy for finding John's killer. As they do, news of John's tragic and sudden death spreads throughout the community.
When Judy first described to me over the phone what had happened, she was distraught. She was still crying. John was somewhat of a mentor to me. So losing someone like that in my life was really hard for me to accept. I didn't believe that it was a random robbery. If he was going to die young, it was going to be because somebody didn't want him around.
Who would have a motive for killing John?
We started gathering our interviews and speaking to family members, friends of the family, neighbors. We tried to get a bead on what type of people we were.
Police looked into his employees, but the feeling was that he had been a good boss and that he was well-liked. John worked long hours.
John and Judy's top priority, investigators discover John's struggle to keep his teenage stepchildren, Christina age 17 and Danny age 15, on the right path.
Judy, she came from a family that didn't necessarily have a lot of money. She struggled. She had 2 kids in a prior marriage. The first kid she had when she was very young, early teen. That was Christina. And then Danny came shortly after. Christina was a really good, quiet, sweet kid growing up. I think when she got into her teens, she had the big house on the block. So, let's have parties at my house. And she started getting in some trouble. Danny, he was a hothead. And Danny kind of followed along. Her and Danny both together were kind of getting in trouble.
One night, Daniel took the SUV without permission. He wasn't of age, didn't have his license. It hit many mailboxes in the neighborhood. In order to keep Daniel out of trouble with the law, John had to go through to all of his neighbors and try to make that right with them. He was the one that was trying to make sure that they were staying on the right path. And because of that, John, Christina, and Daniel, they butted heads.
I think he was considered the bad cop and Judy was probably considered the good cop.
The kids had a little bit of a wild streak to them, but they were teenagers at the time, and sometimes teenagers make mistakes. It seemed that John was a very good caregiver of his family. The kids and Judy basically wanted for nothing.
Despite the challenges that come with raising teenagers, the Parkers seemed to be a picture-perfect American family. So why was John in the crosshairs of a murderer?
The homicide occurred on Thursday night, and on the following Monday, a school resource officer from the city of Crown Point contacted the Maryville Police Department. He had heard about the homicide in the news, and he indicated that he had information. 5 or 6 months prior to the homicide, he had taken a report from the Crown Point school system that there had possibly been a plot to have John Parker killed. This plot centered around a couple of kids, and those kids had got caught with a large amount of cash.
Suspicious to why the 15-year-olds have so much cash on them at school, counselors interview the students and report the arrangement to the school's resource officer.
The boys' story was very consistent with each other, even though they were interviewed separately. The boys said Dan had paid them to kill his stepfather.
The report detailed the money that was found was only a partial amount. Several $1,000s was actually given to these students to commit the crime, but they never actually took any action other than to rip Danny.
He tried to have his stepdad killed. We learned that the Crown Point Police Department, they determined that this incident was something that was not likely to go forward and become a criminal act. They had seized the funds, and they had put the case aside.
Even more surprising was the fact that the family was never notified, and Danny was never confronted about the incident.
I think it might have been a missed opportunity to at least get to the bottom of some real serious problems brewing inside this household.
Now, 6 months later, John is dead. But could his stepson Danny be the reason why?
It really jump-started the investigation. At that point, the chase was on for us to try to find those students and interview Danny.
4 days into the investigation of John Parker's death, a shocking murder-for-hire plot is revealed that may have been orchestrated by his stepson, Danny. Police quickly bring in Danny to confront him with the allegations made by his classmates 6 months prior.
We need to talk to Danny Hicks. By Indiana law, a juvenile can't be interviewed until they've had a conference with their parents, and the parent has to be present in the room with them. So we started with Judy. I told her that there were things that I had learned that I needed her to clarify for me. So Judy came to the police department, and I told her the story of her son Danny soliciting 2 other kids from the high school to kill John. And she shook her head and said, I can't believe that happened. She had no idea that any of this was going on.
Judy also tells police that Danny and Christina were home the night of John's murder, watching their 2 younger siblings while she and John were out to dinner.
She was agreeable to us questioning Danny, and so that was our next step. Late on that Monday night was to pick up and bring in Danny from their house in Crown Point. When we interviewed Danny in the presence of Judy, he indicated that he did have a troubled and fractured relationship with his stepdad, John.
Ever since I found out I had trouble, I just feels like a love.
He did admit that he had given those classmates money, but he denied that he wanted John killed.
That was just sterile. Don't mess with.
I was going to say, what?
Don't mess with the family and then on off is what you're supposed to do.
Daniel had provided the individuals some money to kind of get back at John. Not to kill him, but just to rough him up a little bit.
What happened? It was like, it was shameful. It was like, so, yeah. What was he supposed to do? Where did I get the money? Where'd you come up with the money? Just saved it for a while.
He really didn't specifically say where a 15-year-old would get any considerable amount of money to be paying anybody, but we incarcerated Danny that night on probable cause by the admissions that Danny had made that he wanted John beat up, knowing the fact that John was actually murdered.
Did the 2 students accidentally kill John in the process of scaring him?
We very aggressively started to try to locate those students.
We learned that one of them was incarcerated on the night of the murder, and that the other one was living in Las Vegas, Nevada with his grandmother.
Was he in Vegas on April 17th? We didn't know. So it was time for a road trip to Las Vegas. He indicated to us that Danny was soliciting people to have John killed. He denied taking any steps toward that. He did acknowledge that they had ripped Danny off and taken money, but they had no intentions of actually doing a homicide.
Police confirm the student was in Las Vegas at the time of John's murder, ruling out both teens as John's killer.
At that point in the investigation, we realized this was another dead end that we were being fed.
They became even more suspicious about Daniel and potentially his involvement in John's murder, but they didn't really have enough.
The prosecutor's office wanted more. They had conspiracy, but they wanted the gun. They wanted the person that did the murder. As a result, Danny was released from the detention center.
While investigators search for a new lead, the community gathers for John's funeral. Tensions run high as those closest to the Parker family learn of Danny's possible involvement, and that the killer could be someone who knew John well.
Some of the other employees that used to work for John, we all went down to Indiana and went to the house, and we all kind of thought that if Danny was already in police custody, they must have evidence that he was somehow involved in it. I didn't think he was involved, though. I really didn't. My gut told me that, at least. And then the next day was the funeral.
John Parker was a very well-liked, beloved member of the community and helped a lot of people. get their start, in his business. So he had 1,000 people come to his funeral.
Several people came up and spoke about memories with John and, how they're a better person because of their time with John. And one of the speakers came up and he said, what's worse about being here is not that just John's in the box over here, but he says, we all know that the person responsible for his death is probably in the same room with us right now. It was tough. It was a disgusting feeling that I think many of us shared. A mentor, a good friend.
1 week after John's murder, the image of the Parker's picture-perfect family is dealt another blow when a second former J&J employee comes forward with a tip, one that involves John's stepdaughter, Christina.
What we learned was that Christina had solicited him to find someone that could kill John Parker. She had paid him $100 as a headhunter fee to find someone, and she had given him $500 as upfront money for the person that was going to commit the crime.
He basically was another plot to take the money, say you're going to do something, but just rip Christina off.
So with this tip, now they know that it's just not Daniel that's involved in trying to hire somebody to take out John, that Christina could also be involved in this plan.
Did Danny and Christina conspired together to kill John.
A tip from a former employee leads investigators to John's teenage stepdaughter, Christina Hicks, revealing an alleged second plot to harm John Parker in the months leading up to his murder.
Danny Hicks, Judy's son, was possibly soliciting John's murder, and now we're learning that Judy's daughter, Christina, may have solicited for the murder of John as well.
At 17 years old, Christina is considered a minor, and by law, detectives need Judy to supervise an interview. Judy agrees, hoping to make sense of the mounting plots against John's life.
I asked Christina about her conversation with the employee.
I worked with him over the summer, and we would always just be talking about, everything that's going on. John was always on my back because I was working for him, so. And we were just sitting there, and I had just gotten yelled at, and I was just, I was talking to him, I was just like, wish he was just, gone, I don't have to deal with this no more, and stuff like that.
What do you say?
He was just agreeing with me and stuff, and, it wasn't, I'm asking him or anything. I wasn't, taking it seriously.
Christina denied everything, but things weren't adding up to be what they looked like.
Without more detail from Christina about money changing hands, investigators find themselves at another dead end. Are these attempts a coincidence? Or are the teenagers conspiring together and concealing a darker plot?
Can you tell by looking at her if she's lying?
Sometimes I think I can tell, and sometimes I look at her and I'm like, I can't tell. If they know, I want to know. I want to know.
Detectives are determined to uncover the true story behind John's murder so they can make an arrest.
We started around Christina. We were scattered in so many different directions because we started documenting 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 plots at different points in time where these family members were trying to have John killed.
The money kept being given out for this to happen, but these people would just take the money and never do the crime. They didn't want to kill. They were looking at the money.
We had Christina offering money. We had Danny offering thousands of dollars. What we didn't have were successful plots, but we knew that both kids were never going to come up with this amount of money on their own.
There's got to be some other source that a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old at the time is coming up with. And they look to Judy as that source.
Does Judy know more than she is telling police? Or is she trying to protect her children? Detectives take a closer look at Judy and John's ideal marriage.
I talked to a couple people in the police department just about what I remember from their relationship. It looked like the perfect family for a long time. She worshipped the guy, it seemed like. She came from nothing and hardship, and he paved a golden path for her to walk on. But somewhere along the line, John and Judy started struggling. I think he tried to hide it, though. His appearance was very important. When there was conflict inside the home, he wanted to make sure that no one knew about it. I started noticing some of the changes. Judy didn't really do herself up or anything, and now she's dressing herself up a little bit different than how I've seen her in the past. there was a change in her. And someone had told me that John caught Judy having an affair. I went over to his house one day and he had this goatee, he had a beer in one hand and a cigarette, and I've never seen John have a pity party, ever. And I asked him, is all this stuff true that I heard about Judy? And he said, yeah, she's having an affair or whatever, but they're going to go back to Indiana. And I said, so are you guys getting divorced? And he used the term, no, it's cheaper to keep her. And, I just got to get her away from that guy.
Although the Parker family moved to Indiana for a fresh start, John and Judy's marriage continued to struggle over the next 2 years. But was this enough to make Judy want John dead?
We just really didn't have a strong motive as to why. So we went with the most basic motive. Money.
We had established that John had 2 $500,000 life insurance policies listed with Judy as the beneficiary.
Judy had tried to make a claim on that life insurance policy, and the insurance company refused to pay out because John's murder was still under investigation.
So, in our minds, it was a financial motive for Judy to have this occur. But it actually was turning our focus more on Judy as an arrest because we had to build our case. You just can't say, this family member did it, charge him. Well, it doesn't work that way.
We didn't have the gun, and we didn't have the person that pulled the trigger on the gun.
Despite the multiple plots uncovered to kill John and Judy's financial motive, all the evidence is still circumstantial. The investigation begins to stall, and years pass without any new leads.
After the homicide, Judy and the kids continued to go downhill financially. The business was at a loss. The teenagers had grown up.
Danny moved to Arizona, where he was working construction. Christina stayed locally and got married and had a baby of her own. And Judy moved back to Michigan with a new boyfriend.
Basically, the case had developed into a cold case.
In 2007, 4 years after John was murdered, detectives get a tip from a narcotics agent. He says that Christina's new husband is involved in a drug investigation and there's a warrant out for his arrest. Detective Toth jumps at the chance to revisit the stalled case.
I thought that was a perfect opportunity to bring him in with the legal authority of the arrest warrant and see if he wanted to talk about the Parker homicide.
During the interview with Christina's husband, he was very forthcoming, knowing that he had that warrant. He went ahead and told us that he is willing to work and cooperate with the police. So he gave us vital information that Christina had told him who killed John Parker.
"4 years after John Parker's homicide, an interview with Christina Hicks's husband leads detectives to a possible break in the stalled investigation.
Christina had admitted to him that her younger brother Danny was the shooter. We were pleasantly surprised that with his help, the case was cracked.
He felt that Christina would come in and talk to me, and that this has been weighing down on her as well. Now that she has a family of her own, children, it just might be time for her to come clean.
But is Christina ready to talk? Detectives ask her husband to reach out as they listen in. They hope he can convince her to show up for a voluntary interview.
Christina starts crying, breaks down, and finally she agrees and says that she's ready to tell the story.
She seemed to be willing to say that Daniel was the triggerman. He did kill John Parker. But she would give us a little bit of information, but then she would divert some things that she was involved in.
Benner saying that she had forgotten homework at the office, and that's why John went back to the office. So detectives knew that she played an active role in John's murder. And as they continued to question her and push her to that, she finally confessed that she did in fact make the phone call. And Christina had admitted that she was the one that purchased the gun, and that her mother, Judy, had provided her the money to do so.
She acknowledged being involved with these various different attempted plots.
Christina said over the course of a year, she, her mother, and her brother solicited several people for several $1,000s to have John Parker murdered.
when all was said and done, and they had gotten ripped off so many times, trying to reach out for a hitman, ultimately it was determined that Danny would do it himself.
It was all part of the plan that Judy put together.
Carrying around a secret of that magnitude, that's a pretty heavy burden to bear. And she told detectives that she had felt a lot of guilt about that over the years.
With the burden of guilt driving Christina's confession, detectives still need to corroborate her story. The focus turns to the alleged shooter, Danny, in hopes that he will also confess to his role in the murder.
The dominoes were falling fast. It was exciting because we'd put our hearts and souls into this investigation. And it was time to make a reservation for an airline flight to fly out to Phoenix, Arizona to confront Danny. With the help of the local police department there, we were able to gather a valid address for Danny.
So we sat outside the apartment complex during a time period when we felt that he was going to be arriving home from work.
It was probably about 3:30 in the afternoon. Danny did show up. We saw him pull into the parking lot and get out of his vehicle.
He was walking towards me, and then when he approached, I stopped him and I pulled out my badge and I told him, Detective Rice from Maryville Police Department. And when I said that, you could just see his body just drained. He just kind of slumped down a little bit. I told him, I said, I know a lot about this case. You know why I'm here. And he said, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk.
Danny is brought to a local police department in Arizona and begins to tell detectives what he knows about his stepfather's death.
I could tell by his body language and the way that he was speaking. I mean, he was upset that any of this ever happened. This probably weighed on him every single day.
Danny put it all out there. He gave us the entire conspiracy. He kept moving money for payments from J&J Parker Industries. There was a lot of money missing from the books. John was going to find out about that money, and things were going to go downhill very fast.
And it was really getting under Judy's skin, basically, to where she kept pushing Danny to do this.
This entire plan was concocted by Judy. And Judy was the one that decided who was going to do what, where Daniel should be, that Christina should call and set up with a homework idea to get John at the office where Daniel was going to be lying in wait.
Christina gave Daniel the keys to her car. He wasn't even old enough to drive. They're having him drive a vehicle to go commit a murder, and he doesn't even have a driver's license. This is how sucked in this kid was. He sees that John and Judy pulled up, and Judy was in the car. He walked up, hid behind a dumpster, and just sat there and waited for the opportunity to present itself so he could kill John Parker.
Danny also cleared up one of the mysteries that we had. At the scene, we found 2 .25 caliber casings. However, John Parker was only shot once in the back of the head.
He said how he had to make it look like a robbery as he's reaching in his pocket to take his wallet out, the gun fired again. That's where the second shot came from. He said he drives the car back home where Christina was waiting there, holding a bag open. Stripped his clothes down, took the gun, the wallet, everything that he had, and put inside that bag. He said he went ahead and took a shower, and they never really spoke of it again. Christina told us that she took that bag and gave it to her mother, and her mother disposed of it. Everything corroborated, all the information that was given both by Christina and Daniel.
There was definitely enough to arrest him at that point in time.
Danny is extradited back to Indiana, where he and Christina will await trial for John's murder. And now, detectives need to find Judy.
The fact that Danny and Christina were so ready to get this off of their chest tells me that this is not something that they would have normally done on their own volition.
Judy was the mastermind behind everything.
That's who we really wanted. She's the one that caused these young kids of hers to do this. So we had enough at that point in time to issue an arrest warrant for Judy.
Years after John Parker was executed outside his business, detectives lock in confessions from his stepchildren that implicate their mother, Judy, as the mastermind behind the murder. investigators issue a warrant for Judy's arrest.
Judy did remand herself into custody through her attorney.
And Christina for help piecing together their mother's cold-blooded plot to kill her husband.
Danny, he just kept saying how his mother just wanted John to die, that she couldn't live with him any longer.
Judy had to convince the kids to go along with her plan. So Judy was telling the kids that John was abusive to her, both physically and emotionally.
But when I asked about the abuse, he couldn't really give any particular information that he had seen.
We did not have any police reports to back up domestic violence.
There was no indication of a reason why it had to go this far.
Classic hallmark of a psychopath is to make themselves the victim. It seems to me that Judy really played on that, so that Danny and Christina would feel that they needed to protect her. She created this web of manipulation born out of trauma bonding with her own children.
For the kids, John was the enforcer of the rules of the house. And so Judy was able to convince them that without John, that they were going to be able to do whatever they wanted to, really not have any rules at the house, and that she was going to have enough money to really get them whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted.
Judy was a salesperson. She knew how to sell this murder.
She was grooming, manipulating her children, likely for years. So, in order to survive their childhoods, Christina and Danny had to believe whatever their mom Judy said to them. It's called betrayal blindness. It's a psychological strategy. It was when they grew up and had some time and distance away from her that they could probably see things more clearly.
She could have gotten divorced, but then she would have only gotten half of the estate, and plus John had a $1 million life insurance policy.
What we know is that dark personalities can be made or born, but usually it's a combination of both.
She didn't have a lot of money growing up, had gotten pregnant at an early age, and John was her ticket. But she wasn't wanting to stay married to him for whatever reason. So she wanted it all, and the only way she would get it all would be to kill her husband.
Everyone was expendable who stood between the life she had and the life she wanted. She just didn't care.
Now, I'm not going to make excuses for Danny. I'm not going to make excuses for Christina, because 17 and 15-year-olds, they know the difference between right and wrong. But they were manipulated in many forms by Judy.
Danny and Christina agreed to testify against their mother in exchange for less jail time. With the Looster,
Judy received 33 years in the Indiana State Prison. Danny was sentenced to 23 years, and Christina, for her involvement, was given 5 years as part of the plea agreement.
After Christina's release from prison in 2013, she died of a drug overdose at the age of 27. Danny was released 3 years later in 2016.
I think with Christina, I was more sad than anything else, because not only are her kids growing up without their mother, I wish she would have had enough time on Earth that she could have had a chance to turn it around. I have mixed feelings about Danny being out, but I know he's definitely remorseful about what happened.
I felt for him when his mother made him kill his stepfather. He was a young kid, and Judy stole that from him.
Judy Parker will be eligible for parole in 2023.
I don't think Judy should be out of prison anytime during this lifetime, to be honest.
Judy Parker is a mother that psychologically influenced and manipulated her teenagers to kill their stepdad. She even ruined the lives of the 2 younger daughters that really didn't play into this case because they were very young. But they don't have a father. They don't have a mother anymore.
That's just not forgivable. It's tragic that John's gone, but it's disgusting what she did to her kids. Sorry. John would often say that, people will forget your name, they'll forget what you say, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. And he made me feel good, I wish that I could have been able to share some more time with him on this earth. And I hope one day I can meet him again up there somewhere.